The Hunter's Trail, Part 1, Krasic's Journal. Entry 1, Blackdown's Ashes. 10 days after the Warden murders, the Guild sent me to Blackdown with a simple contract. 4 boys, 4 dead Wardens, bring back justice. They don't say vengeance anymore. Justice sounds so much cleaner. 10 days cold, the ashes still smell, but the heat's gone. Charcoal town, burned by design. Someone taught the fire where to walk, which houses to eat and which to spare. Professional work. I stood in the ruins of the Blackwood compound and felt the old arguments start again in my skull. Were these boys defending themselves or murdering lawmen? Does it matter? Should it? The Wardens came asking questions, hard questions about carts in the dark, smugglers' work, old things buried in Hackett's barrows. The Blackwood sent them away with words sharp enough to cut. Next night, the fires came. Coincidence? Maybe. Probably not. Found a melted door latch in the ash, iron twisted by heat into something almost beautiful. Pocketed it. First keepsake. It joins the others in my pouch, reminders that I was somewhere, did something, mattered for a moment, before moving on. The headsman's widow talked after I sat quiet long enough. Fear works, but silence works better. 4 boys. Igo Blackwood, 14, tall, carries his father's axe like legacy and weapon both. Damien, 12, loves dogs more than people. I understand that. George, 13, strange one. She made warding signs mentioning him. Ewan, 13. Nervous energy, something wrong about him she couldn't name. They were good boys, she said. Before. Everyone's good before something happens. I walked Hackett's lower slopes, found where the smugglers had made their late-night, silent passage. Found bootprints, 6 men at least. Found where the Wardens must met and planned their chase. Found where 3 of them died badly. The last look. That's where Ego made his first kill. Crescent moon, cold ground, a boy becoming something else with one stroke of an axe. The 4th Warden crawled away, with his guts trying to be his outsides. Made it 2 miles before the mercy of death caught him. This is the question that haunts me. Were the Wardens heroes enforcing law, or were they something else? The Guild calls them martyrs. The locals won't meet my eyes when I mention their names. Someone's lying, maybe everyone. But here's what I know for certain, what I learned when my entire watchpost was poisoned by smugglers just trying to clear roads for their trade. When the roads aren't safe, nothing else matters. Not justice, not righteousness, not the private sins of individual wardens. The roads are the arteries. When they fail, the whole body dies. 4 boys killed 4 wardens. The roads are less safe because of it. My job is to restore that safety, one way or another. Took the latch because it reminds me everything melts under enough heat. Law, justice, boys who were good before. Everything. Entry 2, the Monks' Road, 12 days in, caught up to their first camp yesterday and monks from the way station heading to their monastery the next morning. One of them had met the boys. He was still nervous about the incident, their word, like it was a dropped plate instead of violence. Brother Marcus showed me his bandaged hand. Dog bite, deep. Vicious creatures, he said, laughing too hard. Under the laugh, fear. Good. Fear means he's telling the truth. The story came out in pieces. 4 boys appeared from the forest at night, scared and defensive. The monks approached to help. The dogs disagreed violently. A fight broke out, more comedy than tragedy from what I can piece together. Tangled limbs, torn robes, boys swinging firebrands while massive dogs circled like fury-made flesh. Then the older boys arrived, Ego and George, and the chaos stopped. Words instead of violence. The monks saw past the fear to the desperation underneath. I didn't threaten Marcus, just stood there being the thing his mother had warned him about. Sometimes that's enough. He admitted that they had given the boys supplies, food, cloaks, a map with safe camps marked. Silfarian charity, the porter called it. I call it aiding fugitives. But I've seen enough of the world to know charity and criminality often wear the same face. Here's what catches in my throat. Brother Marcus described the moment he realized they were just children. The smallest one, Ewan, he tried to bandage my hand with strips from his own shirt. His hands were shaking. He kept apologizing. That's the detail that sticks. A boy who just fought you trying to tend your wounds. Fear and kindness braided together until you can't tell which is which. Took a prayer bead as token while he squatted off the road. Wood, saint's face worn smooth by desperate fingers. It'll sit in my pouch with the latch and remind me that even desperate prayers don't stop men like me. Before he parted, Marcus felt the need to tell me everything he could, like speaking to his confessor. There was a girl was with them. Red hair, turned back toward home. Lizzie Ashworth, the locals called her. Ego's sweetheart, or had been. She came, saw the road ahead, and chose safety over devotion. Smart girl, and a cousin, Dan, heading for Bannock's city watch. Dreams of green silk and… The watch will chew him up and spit out something harder, not so smart. If he survives the chewing. Here's the thing twisting in my gut. The monks are good men. They saw scared boys and responded with kindness. But those scared boys killed wardens, and every warden's death makes the roads less safe for the very travelers the monks claim to protect. How do you weigh that? 4 boys' lives against the safety of thousands who need the roads. 4 potentially corrupt wardens against the principle that attacking lawmen cannot be tolerated. The roads are everything. Without them, civilization is just isolated pockets of humanity drowning in darkness. That's what I tell myself. That's what keeps me moving. Entry 3, the way station. 14 days in, stayed 2 days at the way station gathering intelligence. Brother Francis, who led the group that found the boys. We met them the night of their escape. You could see it in how they moved, careful, watching every shadow. The tall one, Ego, he positioned himself between us and the others. Pure instinct, protecting his brothers even when exhausted. Brother Marcus added, the strange one, George. He looked at our shrine here. It was like he could read the prayers carved in the stone. Some of them are so old we don't understand them. Made me uncomfortable, if I'm honest. Like he saw more than eyes should see. They talked about the dogs, Blackwood mastiffs worth a fortune each. The boy, Damien, he calmed them with a word, just a word, and those killing machines sat like puppies. I've never seen such a bond between boy and beast. And Ewan, skittish, apologetic, like he was afraid of taking up space in the world, but his hands were quick when he tried to help with my injury. I'm building a picture, 4 boys, each different, each carrying their own weight. Not mindless killers, not heroes either, just boys trying to survive something that started before they were ready for it. We blessed their journey, Brother Francis admitted, asked Sylphira to guide them to safety. Did you ask her to guide them to justice? I asked. He had no answer for that. Before I left, I took, that's what I do, I take things, a page from their guest ledger. 4 names in childish script, Ego, Damien, George, Ewan. Each letter formed with care, like signing their names was a fresh act of hope. Someone must have guided their hands. The page sits with the latch and the prayer bead, evidence that boys who kill wardens still write their names carefully, still hope for better days. I'm 3 days behind them now, but they're slowed by exhaustion and uncertainty. I'll catch them, I always do. The roads need to be protected. That's what I tell myself when the doubt creeps in. Entry 4, the Roadhouse and Tyne's caravan. 17 days in, found where they met Tyne Stonewall at the rough roadhouse 3 days north of Riverside. The innkeeper remembered them. 4 boys, pack of massive dogs, looking like death warmed over. Kept to themselves outside, too scared or too poor for a room, couldn't tell which. Ego had come inside, bought bread and watched, smart, learning the road's rhythms before committing to them. Saw him watch the thieves work the crowd during a fight, the innkeeper said after I'd bought him enough drinks to loosen his tongue. Boy tracked every hand, every lifted purse, didn't report it, just watched and learned. That's when Tyne must have been when approached them. Offered honest work for honest pay, help with the carts, get fed, travel safer in numbers. I caught up to Tyne's caravan 2 days later. The man has an honest face, which makes me distrust it immediately. Honest faces make you remember when I had one too. But Tyne talked straight. Boys were good workers. Ego took to the carts like he was born to it. Strong back, quick mind. Ewan was curious about everything. Asked 100 questions about roads, towns, how to read the land. George was quiet but watched everything. And Damien, he smiled despite himself. That boy loved those dogs more than breathing. They killed wardens, I said. So I heard. Tyne met my eyes. Also heard those wardens were asking hard questions about things that weren't their business. Also heard about the fires came right after. Funny coincidence. You believe them innocent. I believe boys that young shouldn't have to be that scared. He paused. But my brother Teeper, he saw bounty instead of boys, wanted to turn them in. I gave them warning before he could act. I should hate Tyne for that, can't quite manage it. He saw boys, not profit, chose conscience over coin. There's something in that worth respecting, even if it makes my job harder. A rare man not intimidated by my questions. Brave, stupid, but brave. A few days later, Teeper was easier to read, greed wearing skin, a man I could understand. He'd gone to the wardens with whispers, waited for gold that came too slow. I took his dice as token. Bone waited for cheating. Perfect summary of the man, took a copper coin from Tyne's payment stash. Not theft exactly, more like toll for the information. It'll remind me that even honest men make choices that help the guilty run. Entry 5. Riverside and the wheelwright. 22 days in. Riverside is where things got complicated for the boys. 2 carts broke in the ford, Tyne trying to save on bridge tolls, bad luck meeting worse judgment. He sent the 3 youngest boys to find a wheelwright while keeping Ego and Dan to guard the cargo. Old Shuel is a crow in human shape, loves shiny things and his own cleverness. His daughter Merith has her father's eyes, but less of his rot. I came in asking about boys and dogs. Shuel's face went carefully blank until I stacked enough silver to make honesty profitable. 3 boys watched my shop while I fixed Tyne's wheels. Polite enough. The small one, Ewan, got curious about my old armor. Kedrick the Bold's leather jack and greaves, cursed thing, full of crossbow bolt holes. Cursed how? Man died wearing it. Some say the holes can't be mended proper, that death soaked in too deep. He shrugged. I think it's just old leather, but it keeps thieves honest when they think it's haunted. Merith interrupted. Father tricked them into running a night errand for some broken bits and pieces. Dangerous work. Shuel glared but didn't deny it. After more silver and less subtle threats, the truth. Crossbow bolts to the south gate, delivery to someone who didn't want to be seen. Payment was a small locked box, heavy enough to matter. They came back white as ghosts, Merith said. Said something chased them, had to ford the river in the dark to escape whoever was following. The boys were in over their heads, running errands they don't understand for people who see them as tools. Smuggling weapons, the kind that destabilizes regions, gets people killed in bulk. Part of me wants to catch them just to stop them from getting themselves killed in stupider ways. But here's what gnaws. They didn't seek this work. They needed armor, needed protection, needed any advantage they could get. Shuel exploited that need, made children into criminals because he could. I took a wheel peg with Shuel's mark. He makes wheels that turn, I make them stop. We're both craftsmen in our way. Before I left, Merith caught my arm. Another man came looking before you. He had hard eyes. He scared me worse than you do. I'm not here to scare you, was my response, while I tried to guess who that might have been. No, you're here to do something worse than scare. She held my gaze. Those boys, whatever they did, they were kind to me. That counts for something. It counts, I agreed coolly. Just not enough. The roads need order. I keep telling myself that. Keep writing it down like repetition makes it true. Entry 6, the farmer's kennel. 25 days in, caught up to the caravan's trail near Crowning. Found where they'd camped in a farmer's field, payment for water and grazing rights. The farmer was bitter as winter. Lost 3 dogs that night. Something tore into my kennel. Boys said they'd investigate, but one of them stole a pup when he thought I wasn't looking. Which boy? The small one. Didn't take his name. Little thief. I examined the kennel. The damage wasn't from the boys. Claw marks too deep, too high. Something else had come hunting. A neighboring farmer filled in the gaps. Old Birch treats his dogs like shit, barely feeds them, works them till they drop. That pup Damien took was likely half-starved. Boy probably saved its life. So, theft, yes, but theft in service of mercy. How do you weigh that? The boys are accumulating crimes like debts, but each crime has context that makes it less clear than the ledger shows. Found a piece of torn fabric near the kennel from a boy's shirt, used to wrap the stolen pup against the cold. Took it as token. It smells like dog and desperation, and the kind of choice that makes you smaller in law's eyes, but maybe larger in your own. Entry 7, Teepa's betrayal. 27 days in. The caravan split at Crowning. Teepa had sent word to the wardens about the boys, waiting for his reward. Tyne got wind of it and warned them to run. I talked to a road warden stationed outside Crowning City, who'd been sent to look into Teepa's reward. The boys slipped out at night, headed for the river road. Smart move. Teepa was furious, thought he had easy gold coming. Tyne confirmed it when I caught up with him. Couldn't let my brother sell boys for coin, even if they'd done what they're accused of. Some things you don't do and still call yourself human. Noble sentiment, I said. Not noble, just basic. There's a difference. I think he's wrong about that. Nobility is just basic decency that costs something. The boys went east, following the river through rough country. No villages, no witnesses, just wilderness and whatever hunts in it. Took a thread from Teepa's fancy coat when I questioned him. Silk, probably stolen. It'll remind me that greed always thinks it's owed something. I'm a week behind them now, but they're slowed by caution and rough terrain. The gap's closing. Entry 8, the Wilderness Trail. 30 days in. Following the river is slow work. The boys knew what they were doing, staying off the main roads, moving through country too rough for easy pursuit. I've found their campsites, fish bones and ash circles, dog prints everywhere, signs of careful living. They're rationing food, hunting smart, leaving small traces. At one site I found where they'd practiced with their weapons, axe marks in trees, knife gouges in stumps. They're training themselves, getting better at violence because they know violence is coming. Can't fault them for that. If I were being hunted, I'd do the same. Found evidence of a bear at a campsite 3 days old. Fish half-eaten, camp abandoned in hurry. They'd been here when something came sniffing around, something that had left some big prints. Entry 9, the garden and the cabin. 33 days in. Found the cabin today. Wish I hadn't. Someone had turned it into an abattoir before the boys arrived. Old blood, new fear, bodies torn apart and scattered. The work of something that enjoyed killing. The rumors seems to have some bite. The boys had found the place, tried to burn it clean. Smart. Some things need fire to be properly ended. But they'd stopped the burning, preserved the structure while destroying the contamination. Half measures that show they're still thinking like civilized people. I found where they'd tampered with the floor, wooden blocks pried up, steel chest disturbed, treasures examined. They'd taken some, probably the ceremonial gear and those strange metal weights, buried the rest like thieves who couldn't quite commit to theft. The root cellar had been barred from outside. When I opened it, the smell made me gag, children's fear, days old, sweet as rot. Children had been hidden there, young, terrified. The boys pulled them out, saved them, probably fed them. Even killers have moments of mercy. Doesn't erase the killing, doesn't excuse it, but it complicates the ledger in ways that make my job harder. Outside, I found the bear. 6 eye sockets in the massive skull. 6. I've hunted men across 3 dukedoms. I've seen what people do to each other when civilization cracks. I've seen bandits and soldiers and madmen and everything between. This was different, wronger. The body had been hacked apart with desperate brutality. Axe work, egos, I'd recognize it anywhere. Knife work in the joints, George probably. Spear thrusts in the vital areas, team effort, coordinated despite terror. 4 boys killed this thing. 4 children against a demon wearing a bear shape. Part of me is impressed, terrified for them, but impressed. The other part knows this changes everything. They're not just running from the law. They're running from something older, something that hunts them for reasons I don't understand. An oracle came through, Yakov, by the marks he left, fire pits arranged for 3-day burning, protective wards drawn in ash and salt. He'd taken the children west, left messages in symbols I can't quite read. But one message was clear enough, scratched in charcoal. "You hunt the wrong prey, Watcher." I erased it, moved on, but the words follow me. Took a prayer tag from the cabin's lintel. "Guard us from the white fire." Someone's God didn't listen. The gods never do when you actually need them. This is where doubt starts creeping in properly. Not just were the wardens corrupt doubt, but am I hunting the wrong people entirely doubt. The roads need order. That's still true. 4 dead wardens still need an accounting. But if the boys are fighting demon bears while running from me, then maybe the accounting is more complicated than the guild thinks. Entry 10, the children and the oracle. 40 days in. The cabin was a week behind me, but its wrongness follows. Later, a traveling tinker gave me the rest of the story. Strange old man came through with 2 children, foreign-looking, didn't speak our tongue, said he was taking them west, to the grass sea tribes, talked of boys having saved them from a demon. Boys? 4 of them, with massive dogs. The old man called them brave, called them cursed too, but I might have heard that wrong. The oracle, Yakov, left more than just fire pits and wards. He left questions I can't answer. If the boys are fighting demons, if they're saving children, if an oracle calls them both brave and cursed, what does that make my hunt? Justice or just another piece of the chaos? The roads need order, but maybe order needs to bend around things it doesn't understand. Or maybe I'm just making excuses because I'm tired of hunting children. Entry 11, the mountains and wolves. 43 days in. They split up in the hills. Greed pulled them apart, tried to drag ceremonial shields through the forest like fools drunk on treasure. Found where Ewan fell into a root pit, running from something that left claw marks in the earth deep enough to hide my fist. The boy survived by miracle or magic or dumb luck. The pit saved his life. Whatever was chasing him couldn't follow into that narrow space, so it waited above, scoring the earth with claws that shouldn't exist, until something scared it off or it lost interest. I stood at the edge of that pit for 10 minutes, imagining a 13-year-old boy huddled in the dark, listening to a demon thing pace above him, wondering if this was how he died. Then I climbed down. Checked the space. It's tight, cold, claustrophobic. Being trapped there with death circling overhead would break most grown men. The boy climbed out the next morning and kept moving. Higher up the mountain, wolf prints circling a tight cluster of rocks. The boys must have climbed up and pulled the dogs with them. The bitch fought while the boys rained stones and desperation, consistently finding evidence of weapons practice in a clearing, axe marks in trees at different heights, ego training for different opponent sizes, knife gouges in stumps at precise angles, George working on joint strikes, even marks from Damien and Ewan trying to learn what the others already knew. They're teaching each other, building skills deliberately. Not just surviving, preparing. That should worry me more than it does. Took a wolf's tooth from the rocks. Sharp, honest thing. It'll remind me that nature is brutal but not evil. Wolves kill to eat. Men kill for reasons we dress up as righteousness. And boys kill because the world taught them they had to. The doubt is stronger now. These aren't hardened criminals. They're children learning violence because violence keeps finding them. But the bodies are still real. The wardens are still dead. The roads are still less safe. I keep moving because stopping means thinking, and thinking means questioning, and questioning means maybe I'm hunting the wrong people entirely. Can't afford that doubt. Not yet. Entry 12. George lost the Great Bear. 46 days in. Following their trail back down the mountain, I found the site of George's terror today. The boy had wandered off looking for defensible trees. Smart thinking. Got lost in the dark. Understandable. Must have fallen asleep at the base of a large pine with his pup, exhausted. Then it came hunting. The tracks tell a story of panic. Small boot prints running in circles, the pup's paws scrambling, then both heading for a tree. George climbed. The bear followed. Or tried to. The claw marks on the trunk go up 15 feet before the wood gets too thin to support that much wrong weight. I found where the pup harried the thing, brave, stupid creature. Found where George dropped from the tree onto the bear's back. Desperation or courage, impossible to tell which. Found where he drove his weapon into its neck while it thrashed. Then Ego and Damien arrived. The real butchery started. All the signs are here, bits of bones, blood, hair, but the bear's corpse is not. It must have been bigger than the first one. I can still smell the stench, like corruption and ancient hate. But this was no accident. It had been hunting deliberately. Tracking the boys with purpose. I've been a hunter for 20 years. I know the difference between an animal following food and an animal following orders. This thing had orders, which means something is coordinating these attacks. Something old and patient and willing to use monsters as tools. The boys stopped it anyway. 3 of them, working together. Ego's axe splitting bone, Damien stabbing anything that moved, George hanging on and hoping. Sat at the scene for an hour, searched for the corpse until I found its bloody tracks leading away down the mountain after the boys. I tried to understand what kind of enemy uses demon bears as weapons. Tried to understand why 4 boys rate that kind of attention, came up empty on both counts. Took a shard of claw. Cold as death, sharp as regret. It sits in my pouch with the other tokens and whispers questions I don't want to answer. If the boys are being hunted by things like this, if they're fighting and winning against impossible odds, if they're somehow important enough that ancient evil wants them dead, what does that make me? Another hunter in a long line, or just another weapon pointed at the wrong target? The roads need order. That's still true, but maybe the roads need protecting from different threats than I thought. The scales need balancing, but the weights are no longer clear to me. Entry 13, Ewan's Fire Circle. 47 days in. The next morning, just an hour from the scene of the bear attack, I found the campsite where they reunited. Found evidence of Ewan's desperate solo stand. While Igo, George, and Damien fought the great bear, Ewan held the camp with an injured bitch and 4 pups. The wolves came back, drawn by blood scent or opportunity, or just the general collapse of safety in these hills. The fire circle he made is still visible, char marks spreading outward from the central fire, small blazes lit in a ring around the camp. He fed them carefully, enough to keep the wolves back, not enough to let the forest burn. Must have been terrifying. 13 years old, alone except for wounded animals, feeding fire while wolves circled and his brothers fought a demon somewhere in the dark. But he held. Didn't run. Didn't let the fire spread. Didn't let the wolves through. Found a torn piece of his shirt used as bandage for the bitch's leg. Took it as token. It smells like smoke and dog and the kind of courage that doesn't come with fanfare. Just a boy doing what needed doing because no one else was there to do it. The doubt is almost overwhelming now. These boys aren't criminals in any normal sense. They're survivors, warriors even. Fighting things I didn't believe existed until I started following their trail. But survival doesn't erase the bodies they've left. The wardens are still dead. The roads are still less safe because boys learned they could kill authority and run. Or are the roads less safe because authority was corrupt to begin with? I don't know anymore. Entry 14, the Siege Road, 50 days in. Reached the Siege Road today. AL's army has moved south, leaving behind the wounded and disillusioned. Found where Ego tried to bluff his way into the camp, where he killed the watchman, where he slipped on tar and cracked his skull. A deserter told me the rest. We thought he was dead, pale as a corpse, not breathing right, put him on the death cart with the others. But he wasn't dead. Nope, his brothers found him hours later. Must have bought his body with a few copper coins and carried him to the drunk doctor. Bones, they call him. Used to be somebody in Bannock, now he's just another wreck. The doctor saved him, pulled him back from death itself. I watched. The boy sat up screaming like he'd been having the worst dream. Then they worked on the other one, Damien, I think. Bear claws had turned his wounds black, bones cut until the black stopped spreading. I found the burned tavern where it happened. Questioned men who'd been there. The story stayed consistent. Boys desperate, doctor drunk but skilled, rescue against odds. They escaped at dawn with a stolen cart and the doctor's pony. Half the camp's medical supplies went with them. Here's what gnaws at me. The boys could have left Ego on that cart, could have run, saved themselves, avoided the risk. They didn't. Came back for him. Refused to leave him even when leaving meant survival. That kind of loyalty, that fierce refusal to abandon each other, it's rare, special even. And I'm hunting it. Took a conscript's badge, brass, bloodied from the watchman Ego killed. It'll remind me that everyone's fighting for something, but I'm starting to wonder if I'm fighting for the wrong something. Entry 15. Meeting Bones. 52 days in, spent 2 days in the remnants of AL's camp, gathering information about the doctor, Bonnard de Viley, minor Bannock nobility, gone mercenary, gone drunk, brilliant surgeon when sober, passable when not. Served AL's army for 6 months, kept soldiers alive who should have died. Why'd he leave with the boys? I asked a quartermaster. Something changed in him when he saved that Ego boy. Must have remembered who he used to be before the wine drowned it. The man shrugged. Or maybe he just wanted to believe in something that wasn't AL's madness. Found the doctor's surgery in the ruined tavern. He had hidden 2 medical texts, water-damaged but carefully stored. Extra tools cleaned and organized despite the chaos of the escape. This was a man who cared about his work, even drowning in his own failures. The boys have a protector now, someone who knows medicine and darkness, someone running from his own demons while trying to save them from theirs. It complicates the hunt. 4 boys I could catch. 4 boys plus a skilled adult with knowledge of AL's networks. That's different. But it also tells me something. The boys inspire loyalty. The monks helped them. Tyne warned them. Now a doctor risks everything to keep them alive. People see something in them worth saving. Maybe I should be asking why. Entry 10, the abandoned farm. 54 days in, 2 days out of AL's camp, following their trail off the main road. Found the farm today, deserted but not empty. The kind of place where people fled so fast they left ghosts of themselves behind. The main house showed signs of careful evacuation. Furniture remained but valuables gone. Root cellar stocked and organized. They clearly thought they might be able to come back. An escape route carved through the palisade, professional work built by people who knew trouble was coming and prepared. I followed a trail of white stones through the palisade to the forest. They led to an enormous oak with a hollow in its trunk. Prayer ribbons tied to every branch, hundreds of them fluttering like trapped birds. Inside the hollow, a tiny shrine, offerings of bread and flowers, not yet rotted. Someone had tied ropes up to higher branches. I climbed because I'm still a boy who never got to climb enough, and because the ropes looked recent. Found a hidden platform 20 feet up, another shrine, several jars of preserved food. The boys had been here, taken half, left half. Discipline or guilt, hard to say which. Climbed higher to a lookout post wedged in the fork of branches. Someone had watched from here, scanning the horizon. There was a mount for a spyglass. Good craftsmanship. I took a small brass nut from its foundation that won't be missed. Back at the farmhouse, I found where the boys had slept in the horse shed. Hay pressed with their shapes, dogs' prints everywhere. They'd stayed a night, maybe 2, felt safe enough to rest properly. The question twisting in me, what were these farmers watching for? AL's conscription sweeps, the demon bears, or something else? And why build such elaborate escape routes unless they knew something specific was coming? The countryside is collapsing. Everywhere I go, I find evidence of people fleeing, hiding, preparing for violence they can't name. The roads that connect these places, their arteries feeding a dying body. The boys didn't cause this collapse, but they're part of it. Part of the chaos that makes roads unsafe, that breaks the fragile order keeping civilization alive. Entry 11. Blood on the trail, 57 days in. Tracked back half a day's journey from the farm, I found where the boys' restraint finally broke. 5-man patrol had been to the farm the boys had stayed at. Conscription sweep, by their gear farmers pressed into AL's service, plus an older leader. Still not sure how they missed the boys, must have been fresh recruits checking the farm. The trail tells the story clear as words. Ego went looking for trouble. No doubt he and maybe George confronted the 5 men on the trail and were told to join Ailes' army. Words likely became threats. Ego made a choice. I found the bodies scattered along half a mile of road. First, farmer-soldier, axe to the chest. Clean, professional. Ego's work. I'd recognize it anywhere. The man probably didn't see it coming. Second, fled wounded, blood trail heading south. Might have survived if he got help fast enough. The young conscripts, scattered to the winds, smart boys, saw how the fight was going and ran. The leader tried to run after his sword flew from his grip. Bad footwork, rusty skills, cut down from behind. Brutal efficiency. Here's what stops me cold. This wasn't defense. This was a boy who charged because he hates being told what to do. Who killed because killing has become easier than talking. I've seen this transformation before. Good men who kill once for good reason, then again for lesser reason, then again because the first 2 times made it easier. Eventually, you're just a man who kills, and the reasons stop mattering. Ego's walking that path, maybe too far down to turn back. I sat with the bodies for an hour, reading the signs. The fight was brief, brutal, one-sided. The patrol probably thought they were dealing with scared boys. Found out different. Took a copper coin from the leader's hidden pocket, payment from AL's recruiters for bringing in fresh meat. It'll remind me that everyone's working for someone, and the someone's usually worse than the worker. The question haunting me: if I'd been in Ego's place, 14 years old and hunted, desperate and scared and powerful with an axe in my hands, would I have done different? I want to say yes. I'm not sure I believe it. But here's what I do know. These boys are leaving a trail of bodies. The reasons get thinner each time. The violence comes quicker. The roads need order. And order can't coexist with boys who kill men for trying to conscript them, even if the conscription is unjust. Even if the men were tools of a worse system, the doubt is there. But it's getting quieter. Entry 18, The Wilderness with Bones. 65 days in, 2 weeks tracking them through rough country. The doctor slows them down, but also keeps them alive. I'm finding campsites where someone treated injuries properly. Bandages made from torn cloth, but applied with knowledge. Medicines foraged from the forest, willow bark for pain, yarrow for bleeding, herbs I recognize from field surgery. The boys are learning from him. I find evidence in how they set camp, better spacing, proper fire management, attention to water safety, small things that mean survival instead of just not dying yet. Found where they met refugees fleeing AL sweeps. The doctor treated a child's fever, accepted no payment. That phrase haunts me. A broken man remembering wholeness. Is that what I am too? A broken man who remembers justice but enforces something else. The roads need order. I keep saying it, keep writing it, keep hoping repetition makes it true. Entry 19. Mudshore in sight, 64 days. In 3 days from Mudshore, the coast is close. I can smell salt on the wind. They're trapped now. The sea is the end of running unless they find a boat, and boats require coin or trust. The boys have little of either. I'm 2 days behind them. Maybe less if they're slowed by Damien's injuries, or the doctor's drinking, or just exhaustion from 2 months of flight. Found their last camp before the coast. They'd stayed 2 nights, long enough to rest properly, debate their options, maybe even hope. Evidence of bones teaching the boys, diagrams scratched in dirt showing how to treat wounds, knife-fighting stances marked in cleared ground, even what looked like reading lessons using torn pages from a medical text. 4 boys learning to survive, learning to fight, learning to think, not because they want to be warriors, but because the world keeps demanding it. I sat in their camp as the sun set, tried to imagine their conversation, Ego's fierce determination, Damien's worry about the dogs, George's quiet certainty, Ewan's nervous energy, the doctor's cynical hope, tried to imagine arriving, making my arrest, dragging them back to face justice. Couldn't quite picture it, or didn't want to. The roads need order. 4 dead wardens demand accounting. But these boys, they're not the chaos I thought I was hunting. They're children fighting chaos while I chase them for trying to survive it. Tomorrow I reach Mudshore. Tomorrow I end this. Tonight I sit with my tokens and try to remember why I started. The latch from Blackdown. Everything melts under enough heat. The prayer bead from the monks. Even prayers don't stop what I do. The ledger page, boys writing their names carefully, hoping. The torn fabric from Ewan's shirt, courage without fanfare. The wolf's tooth, nature's honest brutality. The bear's claw, wrong that shouldn't exist. The conscript's badge, everyone serves something. Each one a moment from their journey. Each one a piece of their story. I'm the hunter who takes tokens from those I hunt, who tries to understand prey by stealing pieces of their lives. And what I understand now, after 64 days and hundreds of miles, is this. The boys killed wardens. That's true, the roads need safety. That's true. But maybe the greatest threat to the roads isn't boys defending themselves from corrupt authority. Maybe it's the corruption itself, the systems that make boys into killers, then calls their survival criminal. The wheel turns. I've always turned it. Tomorrow I learn if I can stop. Entry 20. Mudshore. 70 days in. Found them. Fisher's shack by the harbour. 4 boys, 1 drunk doctor, and a pack of dogs. They're trapped. The coast is the end of running unless you find a boat. I've been watching for 3 days, learning their rhythms. George works the docks. Clever boy, making coin, varying his routes like he knows someone's hunting. He watches reflections in water, checks his back trail, never stops moving long enough to be cornered. Ewan follows the doctor like a worried parent, tries to limit his drinking, learns medicine while pretending to just help. The boy's soaking up knowledge like he finally found something he's good at. Damien explores the coastline with the dogs. Maps every cave, every wreck, every hiding spot within miles. Ego practices alone in the woods above town. Killing trees that can't fight back. And Bones, the doctor drinks at the Anchor's Rest, asking about passage south. Making deals, trading his skills for promises. Today he found it, Captain Whale desperate enough to take them in exchange for healing his sick twins. Tomorrow they go to Whale's farm, outside town, away from witnesses. Tomorrow I end this. The local constable's been paid to look away. Not much. The guild's warrant is enough, but he took silver anyway because men like him always do. I've laid out my tools. 2 knives, 1 for fighting, 1 for mercy. 4 pistols, powder and shot. Rope for binding. Manacles if the guild wants them breathing. Warden tokens for authority. And my keepsakes, all of them. Here's what I know after 67 days. The roads need order. Without order, civilization is just isolated pockets drowning in darkness. But order enforced by corrupt wardens, enforced by boys pressed into Ael's army, enforced by systems that make survival criminal, that's not order. That's just organized violence wearing a respectable face. The boys aren't threats to the roads. They're symptoms of roads already failing, and I'm supposed to cure the symptom while ignoring the disease. Tomorrow I make my choice.